Welcome back to episode 17 of Voice of the Broken. This is a very exciting time because the podcast, this little side project of mine, is evolving into something new. I have my close personal friend Mike here, who is the founder of Force of Focus and a fellow tattoo artist that has been on the podcast. He and his wife Katie have become godsend friends to us. We are very grateful that they're in our lives. But Mike has a very similar story, and because this is where I want to take the Voice of the Broken, I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to launch forward with that. So with that being said, Mike, thank you for being on the show today. I really appreciate you being here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. First and foremost, it is an absolute honor and privilege to have the opportunities to do this with you. I couldn't be more grateful to be given these opportunities, to be able to create this kind of life, from where I was to where I am. You know what I mean? And I think that's, as you had said, kind of where you and I align. So as Chris had said, I'm Michael Getz. I run and operate the Force of Focus. I've been a tattoo artist for about 20 years. The Force of Focus primarily focuses on a lot of self-development with the guidance through marketing, through branding, through business creation. But I like to hyper focus on the things we can do inside. You know, all success starts from inside and then is projected out. And I learned that lesson the hard way through many, many years of trial and error, of destruction, of consistent repeated action, to pounding my face against a brick wall, both physically and metaphorically. And it brought me to the point of truly just wanting to make change in other people's lives, predominantly creatives, but also those who just truly see more in life, more in their futures, but have absolutely no idea how to escape the madness that they've created around themselves.
Okay. So speaking on that, because that's a very big jump to going from being a 5-year-old that gets to draw on people for the rest of their life as a career path to trying to be a mentor to other people who are trying to get to where you're going. Because ultimately, that's what we're doing. We're mentoring.
Yeah.
You can call it whatever you want. You can call it coaching. You can call it helping. You can call it business planning. We have done what other people are trying to do, and we've already made the mistakes. The whole point of this is to create an opportunity for people to bypass all the bullshit we did to get there a whole lot faster, right? So how did that transition from tattoo artist to entrepreneur mentorship happen for you? Because it's not, we don't do that. Tattoo artists stay in their lane for the most part. We don't ever really get out of that box, and we both have. And for me, it looked like I didn't like what the industry was becoming. Like true shit. Like I fucking hate the tattoo industry right now. So,
And I said this first on the To Be Better podcast. I hate the way the tattoo industry is going, and I hate tattoo artists to such a degree because of who it is they feel they're obligated to become, that I've taken it upon myself to guide those who truly want a better path and a better outcome.
that's a good way to word that. Obligated to who they are becoming,
Yeah.
obligated to who they think they're supposed to become. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I mean nowadays tattooing as a whole has become the fad. It's truly, it's all about the attention. No matter how you look at it, people get tattoos for attention in the grand scheme of things. Sure, they have a story, sure it's a rites of passage, sure there's a lot of things that they want to experience, whether that's the endorphin rush or just commemorating something with a friend. It's all about the attention. And so is becoming a tattoo artist. You know, what better way can you become the coolest kid in your social circle than becoming the tattoo artist? What faster way can you get all the attention on social media than putting tattoo at the end of your Instagram handle?
Yeah, I agree with that. My issue with the tattoo industry is that we come from a time where we worked 7 days a week.
Mhm.
8, 10 hour days was not uncommon, especially on Fridays and Saturdays. You didn't have a choice. And there was no like, well, I'm an independent contractor conversation being had. You were either there when the shop was open per the owner, or you didn't have a job. And it's not like you could navigate that easily, because if you got a bad reputation at one studio for being a shitty employee, they will blackball you to all the studios, and it would be very hard to find a job in your town. Like that was just the way that it was. And that's not the case anymore. Like the shop owners don't talk to each other the way that they used to. And the community that used to be the tattoo community, I mean, it doesn't really exist as far as I'm concerned.
No, I couldn't agree more. But I mean, a lot of things occurred. You know, the social fad of the television phenomenon that occurred, the fad of getting tattoos and it becoming more socially acceptable, and then it becoming the fad to who's going to be like being the producer of or the practitioner of A lot of it went from a lifestyle to you just being a hobbyist of, and it's one of those things like it's like I always make the joke that it's a bunch of 2019 DJs converting into the next hip thing on social media. That's all they are, is just people chasing a trend.
Yeah, I remember the TV show explosion. I was very, very grateful for it when it happened because it brought a whole lot more money into the industry. And I thought that was going to be a good thing. I thought that was going to be a future retirement plan for a lot of artists. I thought that there would be new shops opening. I thought there would be a new understanding had that you can actually make a career out of this that would last you a lifetime and you could go anywhere in the world and do it. Instead, it made a whole lot of egos and it shifted the way the industry was ran. I don't know. We can get into that a whole ass episode. I don't want to get too far into that, but so the Voice of the Broken is supposed to be stories of struggle. It's supposed to be our lowest of lows. A lot of the things that we've got have been people who have sent in emails who have overcome addiction or have tried to control alt delete themselves and had a misfire or a weapon not discharged properly and they're still here. And like they all end their emails with, I'm really glad that God intervened, or however they believe that, because I'm living a much better life now and I just didn't see the way through, and I found my way, and they have their success story. So what did rock bottom look like for you?
Wow. Okay. It relates to kind of how we started this conversation. My rock bottom became my constant state. Rock bottom, in my opinion, was the most beautiful place I ever got because it was the one time I realized it's either 6 feet under or as high as I could possibly climb out of this mess that I had built for my life. Rock bottom sounds like a terrible place to be when you're entering the rooms of like AA, NA, some sort of rehabilitation center, a psych ward. But when you look back, that little glimpse in the rearview mirror, rock bottom was one of the best places I ever was because it was really when I got to the starting line of what was possible in my life.
I got chills. I'm a firm believer in rock bottom being the greatest thing to ever happen to anyone. When you get to that point where you are on your own, there's no one there to pick you up. There's no hands reaching down in that hole to drag you out. There is literally no one there to save you anymore. You fucking realize what you're made of and how capable you are of overcoming things because you're forced to figure it out on your own. Mm-hmm. I've said that over and over and over again over the last few years with the podcast, and that for you to say it's a beautiful place like that, it is. When you look back on it, all of that ugly transforms you. It lets you know that you are that motherfucker. You're capable. Like you can overcome so much that you just have accepted, or the things that you have allowed other people to plant seeds that have taken root in your brain. Like all of that shit gets uprooted. You know what I mean? And like that, I think that's necessary for most people. And that speaks to a lack of parenting. People don't let their kids figure shit out anymore. They helicopter and do everything for them and then wonder why they're 18 years old and don't know how to change the tire on their car. So I agree with that. That's a good way to word it. It's a beautiful place to be.
I think my last and final rock bottom, God willing, is the one time I realized it can't get any worse. How many times have men told themselves, it could always be worse? And then you find what that place is. And then you think to yourself, ugh, it could always be worse. You know what I mean? At what point does it have to occur to when it's time to do better? Because you and I both know a lot of people who it did get worse, and they went the wrong way. They did take 6 feet under instead of the path of most resistance to create the greatest fucking rewards.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of people that didn't make it through, and that's factual. And that's crazy when you think about it. We look back on our lives and like the things that you and I have gone through, because we've talked a lot at length about this. Mm-hmm. The things that we have gone through, by definition, we shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Right. And like, here we are. And I tell people on the To Be Better podcast all the time, I believe that I am here because I am supposed to be doing more than what I did. And if I didn't go through everything that I went through to get me to here, I wouldn't be able to mentor the people who would not survive what I did. Right. So now you and I are working towards trying to find a way to be the last hand reaching out into that hole to pull people out of it, because we don't want people to go to that level of just quitting. You said something a second ago that I wanted to touch on, and it was talking about the people who say it could always get worse. It could always get worse. I used to always say that shit. I was that guy who was like, well, it could be worse. And then it dawned on me that the more I say it could be worse, why am I not saying it could be better? Why am I not doing the things necessary to catapult myself into the social circles or into the financial freedom or into the things that I always wanted to be? And like, you and I have talked a lot about like Rob Bailey and all of the guys that are doing what Rob and those guys are doing. That was what I wanted. Like, I really wanted that lifestyle. And he started his business the same time I started Sacred. Like, we were right around the same age, right around the same time frame of business. And he was so much further along than me, so much faster. And like, I would always see that shit. And I would see his videos and him driving his 911s and fucking doing all the things. And I was like, this life is possible. Like, I fucking want this life. And seeing someone my age who had just the fucking gumption to get up and do whatever the fuck he wanted. That was his thing. I do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I was like, I fucking want to be that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I was like, okay, so now what do I have to do to become that motherfucker? Like, and for me, it looked like I just needed to really buckle down and work on my career and how to brand and market myself and move forward. And that mindset switch from it could always be worse to it could be better and I'm going to make it better. I mean, ultimately that planted the seed for to be better, forever ago. You just would have never thought that. Looking back, hindsight, it's clear as day. But I don't know. It's like crazy to hear people say shit like that and it clicked together.
My whole thing is, and I mean, I could relate it back to what I'm doing now, or a lot of my overcoming is it can always be worse. It can get worse. You go into an AA meeting again, and you look around these rooms. As a tattoo artist, you can never relate because no one's ever going to take my job. No one's ever going to challenge my capabilities. I can show up hungover and still produce a quality enough tattoo and nobody will be any the wiser. Once upon a time, I had a client say, you should get tattooed by him. He does amazing work when he's hungover. It's like, to me at that time was like, what a flex. What a fucking nightmare.
Right.
You know what I mean? To look back and to think that was the reputation that people had of me is despicable. However, it justified it could always get worse because, again, no one would take my job. I would always have a little bit of money coming my way, just enough to get by. It could always get worse. There was one time that I sat on the front porch of my tattoo studio with a bottle of liquor in one hand and my 45 in the other. And I can still to this day remember what the oil of that gun tasted like chasing my bottle of fucking Jameson.
Jesus, dude.
And the next day, I still said it could always be worse.
Yeah.
I guess that's insanity.
I have the exact same story, but inside the tattoo studio and on the front porch. A couple times. It was at that point where like financially I was good, right? Like I had all of my bills were way taken care of. I had a nice little chunk of change in savings. My marriage at the time was a fucking disaster. I just didn't want to do it anymore, right? Like I didn't want to be a tattoo artist anymore. I didn't want to continue down the industry. I didn't want to market. I didn't want to do the business owner thing anymore. I just wanted a really simple life, and every Doctor Strange outcome that I could fucking figure out all looked the same way. And this is what I was going to do until my body gave out on me. And then I was going to eliminate myself anyway. So why not just do that now? But I had it in my head that if I was going to do it, I was going to do it in the shop so that it would ruin everyone else too, right? Like I was that toxic fucking, if I'm going out, I'm fucking everybody in the process. And that was what my deepest depression looked like. And like, there's a whole lot we can talk about and how we overcame that, but this isn't about me. This is actually about you. So you spoke a lot about alcohol. Is that where your rock bottom came from, was from alcoholism? And what were you doing in your life at that point that made you realize that like, if I don't stop, I'm going to die?
So I think my rock bottom, like honestly, came from after the alcoholism, because that's when I really had to start facing my emotions head on, and I didn't have another outlet. Having to face all the damage I had created, having to face all of the buried demons and all that shit. That's when it really got tough. And I white knuckled the fuck out of it for a really long time. I did the generic lived a life of quiet desperation and actually having to face emotions I had never actually acknowledged. And I tried to do it with my teeth just grinding, just powering through it. You know what I mean? Like I could overcome anything. Nothing would ever compare to the pain I'd already felt. And I challenged that narrative until I realized I couldn't face it anymore. I couldn't keep it up. So I relapsed one last time where I wound up stranded and walking the streets of LA and Orange County for I think like 3 or 4 days. I was pretty grayed and blacked out the whole time.
Wow.
They finally let me on a plane because I was too drunk showing up at the airport. They wouldn't allow me to get on a plane. Finally wound up in Denver, did the whole thing again to the point where I had to buy a ticket for someone to fly to Denver to pick me up to get a rental car because I was banned from the Denver airport
Wow.
to drive me home to Iowa. And that was kind of the reality. And I think it was in part that I was just hoping for it all to end in a fiery blaze of glory where nobody would have to find me that knew me, nobody would have to deal with the repercussions and the embarrassment of all of it. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know what was different about that one or any of the other just terrible, fucking embarrassing things that occurred throughout my alcoholism and my drug addiction and all of it. But that one really, really did it for me because I had faced so many demons and so many emotions that I realized I would rather it be as bad as it used to be than have to move forward experiencing feelings ever again.
So with your benders, were they just because fuck it, or were they induced by stress and trauma in your life? Were they just like what caused those binges?
I think mostly it was fuck it because once you get to a certain point where you're used to traumas and stresses, that becomes your natural state. You know, you have the conversation with people all the time. Are you afraid of failure or success? Everybody says, well, I'm afraid to fail. Like, no, you're not. You live in failure. It's a very comfortable place. You'll escape back to it every chance you get.
Yeah, it's easy.
And the thought of overcoming and the work that was required for me to actually overcome the trauma and stress just seemed like too much to bear. But I had gotten to a point where I realized I had faced my demons. I had looked the devil square in the eyes, and I was finally ready to start climbing out of my own hell. You know, and that came at the cost of realizing that I had missed out on the latter years of my grandma's life, who was very active in me growing up. She was always present. She was always there. She was somebody who was just she tough fucking love, but present as hell. In the last 5 years, I was in and out of jail, in and out of prison, always showing up drunk when it was holidays and her birthdays. Never really knew what I was doing there after a while, and knowing that I'll never get to share that time with people that I've lost along the way who lived good lives and always supported me. They're the people that I still let down. I don't know, man. It did a lot of damage to me, and those were just some of the demons. But I think that's one that I'm always going to remember.
How hard was it to go from the brink of benders like that and being that addicted to getting sober? Did you actually have to go through the AA process, or was this one of those things where you just restructured your life?
I restructured my life from the ground up. The thing was, AA is no different than alcoholism, in my opinion, because eventually you get to a point where you keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result, and it's still as insane as going back to the bottle because they'll always accept you back. Doesn't matter how many times you go on benders or relapse. They're always like, yeah, come on back, buddy.
Yeah.
You're fine. Everything's good.
Yeah.
And so eventually I looked at myself in the mirror and it was like I was disgusted. It wasn't because I was fat and out of shape. It wasn't because of the bags under my eyes. It was because of the person or lack of that I saw looking back at me, you know, like, and so it was an utter recreation of everything I thought I knew.
Yeah, that AA thing. I have a couple people who are very sober, hard drugs, very sober, who felt like they no longer needed AA, and when they stepped away from that community shunned them really fucking hard. Like, and that's a whole new withdrawal because you have a support system of a community, and when you no longer get in to fit in, so to speak, and they remove themselves from you, you are being forcefully ejected from a community that is supposed to be there to support you and help you overcome those things.
Yeah.
You should make
This is a controversy statement, so I hope people in AA can take something away from it, or I don't know, don't send me too much hate mail. But AA is designed to help people survive, which is amazing.
right. It's a good thing.
But they do not provide you with the tools to strive or to thrive.
Right.
And that was my big bugaboo with the process. Is they want you to stay here. They want you to stay in the meetings. They want you to be active. And there are men and women in those meetings that were sober for 30, 40 years and hadn't missed a fucking beat the whole time.
Yeah.
They survived really well. And that didn't align with the person that I needed to recreate. I couldn't do it because I would have just escaped back to failure.
Yeah.
Failure was way more enticing than complacency.
Yeah. Those people just are existing, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not an actual life to be living. That AA thing, and you can, this is something that I would just like you to look into later. It's not something we have to get into, but look at the history of psychedelics, LSD specifically, and Alcohol Anonymous and the founder, because he pushed for decades to try to make it so that LSD could be used in treatments of alcoholism, because he himself used LSD in a one-time treatment and cured his alcoholism. His entire life, he never even craved it anymore, which is wild. I just literally read a book about this, I think 2 days ago. So it's very fresh in my brain, which is why I'm able to even recall that. But so you said that you had to move away from your social circles. So for me, and this is not really, again, this is not about me, but I'm going to touch on it anyways. When I moved to Port Charlotte, I had a night where I fell down a spiral staircase into my bathroom. That morning I fell down the spiral staircase into the bathroom. But there was, before that happened, I went to the bar with a bunch of my friends and I drank all night long and I was eating painkillers on top of it. And I don't know how I got home. My car was there. I don't think I drove my car because it was parked perfectly. And in that kind of headspace, there's no way. I would have been Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street. There's no way I would have been able to drive home.
Yeah.
But my car was there. I was home. I woke up in my bathroom that night and I was on my side, but I had vomit in my mouth and it was all over my face. It was on my chest. Whoever left me there left me on my side. And I woke up in the middle of the night. I was still fucked up and I cleaned myself off and I went to bed upstairs. And then when I woke up, I had to pee and I ran downstairs and I fell down the spiral staircase because I was still fucked up from the night before. My legs weren't working. My brain wasn't working. And that was my wake up call. It was that one specific moment where I was like, I can't drink. I can't continue doing drugs. Like, I have to fucking get my life in order or I'm going to die. And at that point, I'd already had somebody die in my arms from a drug overdose, right? Like in my fucking arms, overdosing, waiting on an ambulance. I had woken up in other counties, like not in other cities, but like, 50, 60, 70 miles away in strangers' houses.
Yeah.
Totally fine with it. Didn't give a fuck. Like, busted out windows in people's homes because I wanted to fight people in the middle of the night while I was drunk and nobody would, whatever the reason was. Like, I lost so many friendships. And it took me realizing that as long as I stayed in the county that I was living in, I would stay in the social circle. The people that were doing what they were doing would continue to come around no matter how much I didn't want to be involved in it. And I would absolutely succumb to the peer pressure of it because that was my social circle. Everyone was doing the same shit every Friday to Saturday night. That was their lives. Well, mine went from Friday and Saturday night to Monday night and Wednesday night with new people because I'm a tattoo artist and all my friends are fucking, what are you doing after work? Let's go get fucked up. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have no life. I have nothing to lose. Like, rock bottom. Let's go. I moved to the county that I live in, like where we live now, and I had to start completely over again. And I knew no one. And that gave me the cleanest fucking slate because the last place I was going to look to hang out with somebody was a bar because I knew what was going to happen if I went. And even though I was still in the tattoo industry and it's very easy to find drugs in this industry, I made it a point to not hang out with people who were doing drugs. I found the gym rats and the people who were fucking eating healthy and trying to live the Buddha life and do all of that bullshit because I needed some sort of peace that wasn't going to push me to darkness. And that's where I gravitated to. And it was a fucking bumpy ass ride, dude. If I had a mentor going through that 10 years of my life, it would have looked very different and it would have happened a whole lot faster, which is why I want to do this mentor thing so badly because I think that we can really, truly help people. So what did your community shift look like? How hard was that for you? And did you have to move? Was it the new jobs, new career path? Like, how did that whole thing look? Because I think that's necessary for success.
I stayed put. I cut everyone off. And not aggressively, you know what I mean? I just stopped responding, stopped going to the same places. I really buckled down. And what I did, so when I was in prison the last time, that was the one time I realized there was no one there I wanted to associate with. The one time I realized I don't want to fit in with these fucking people. So I really started writing my goals. Like, what is it that I've always wanted? What are the things that I know are truly meant for me? What are the things I've been neglecting forever? And I just wrote and I wrote and I wrote. as much as I could. And I really got to know myself. The biggest fear my entire life was living within my own head. You know, it was my thoughts I was escaping. It was my self-doubt, my negative self-talk, all of that. And so here it's like, well, what the fuck are my options? Drink the toilet wine or fucking figure my shit out. And so what I learned was that I'm pretty articulate and I'm well thought. You know, that was the first time I realized that I can convey a message and paint a picture honestly pretty quickly as long as I focus. So that's what I did. And then when I had gotten out, that was when the gap of facing my real demon started. Just before that, airplane relapse shit. And I mean, you were talking about waking up in a
Yeah,
different
you were in a
county.
whole other state.
I was halfway across the country.
Wow, dude.
But so once that had all occurred, I actually pulled all of those writings out from when I was in prison and I started reading through them. And I realized that even though I was struggling with facing a lot of those demons, some of the goals I wrote down, I subconsciously actually achieved.
Good.
There
Yeah,
were goals that occurred, and the point I'm going to make to that is then I had proof of concept, so I started documenting and writing everything in bullet point plans that I wanted to do moving forward. As long as I could not X, Y, and Z, then I was more than capable to A, B, and C.
with that subconscious goal accomplishments, how did that look like? How, when you realized that, oh shit, that came into fruition, what was that moment like for you?
Um, Honestly, it was underwhelming.
Okay, why that's a hell of a statement.
Um, it 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 was a really cool epiphany to come to, but it wasn't enough. You
Okay,
know, I was
okay.
like, huh, fascinating, you know? And like that's how I've always kind of worked. My biggest bugaboo in life is celebration or rewarding myself. My biggest asset and my biggest hindrance is my inability of celebrating or giving myself too much credit. And I think that's why I am the way I am. A lot of my celebrations nowadays come to, I mean, not to blow your ego, but a celebration to me is getting to meet you and Peach with me and Katie out in Vegas. You know what I mean? But anything between those things is just it's just momentum.
So subconscious wins. Okay, I want to come back to that, but
Okay, sorry,
I
sorry,
have to
sorry.
touch on Vegas real quick, and then I want to go back to the social circle thing. Vegas was a one of those subconscious wins for me. I have taken friends of mine on vacation, right? Like we've gone to Vegas. I've brought a couple of my friends with me, and like we did desert stuff and gambled, and we had like a little life. But those people were not. I don't want to say the same caliber because it downplay who they are, and I love those people. So like that's not what I'm getting at. But for you and I and our wives to be able to sit down at a fucking $100 a plate dinner and not look at the bill, right? Or be
Yeah.
able to go and spend an entire day at a wax museum or whatever it is that we wanted to do without having to worry about who's paying for what or how things are going was a bucket list item for me. So Vegas, that moment in time, it holds a special place in my heart that you will never be able to understand because there was a fulfillment there, and it was a huge fucking victory. And Peaches and I talk
Mhm.
about that at least once a week. That's huge for us. So thank you for that. On the social circle thing, when you got out of prison, was there people waiting to drag you back into that life? Because when I got out, like I didn't even have a ride home. I had a CO fucking drive me from the county that I was in 3 hours to my house and dropped me off. And when I got there was like 50 fucking people there, dude. And the last thing that I wanted was to see any of them.
Yeah.
And they were already fucked up. And by the end of the night, dude, I was blacked out, fucking intoxicated. And that was the exact opposite of what I wanted to do with my life. I already had a job lined up. I missed my job interview the next day. Like, and it was because they were there.
Yeah. I had a lot of people who were surprisingly there for me and they wanted to see me win. So they supported it until they started seeing me win. And then I started getting those little
Oh yeah.
backhanded, like, hey, we really miss you out on the town. You were one of my favorite drinking friends,
Yeah.
this, that, and the other thing. One of my friends, still to this day, has my ID card from prison where I hadn't shaved my head. And it's not a full patch, dude. I've got cul-de-sac. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't a good look. And I was like, if you ever see me out, you show me this fucking card. And he used it for the wrong reasons, needless to say. But at the time, I was married, And my ex-wife, she wouldn't come pick me up.
Wow.
Yeah, she told me when I was in prison, she didn't want to be with me. You know, she was just the value that I brought was monetary. The value that I brought was the support. I was an idea. And that was another one of the realities that I had was as the man in that relationship. I wasn't a person, I was an idea. And the minute the person's problem started coming out, then it changed the entire um vision of what someone else's future could look like through the what it was I was able to create. And I admittedly I leaned into that. I was just the idea. If you want me to be the idea, the rock star, the party animal, I'll fucking show you.
Yeah.
You bet. And I weaponized it.
It's very crazy. You guys, you and Katie have a relationship very similar to Peaches and I. Full disclosure, like we've spent a lot of time with you guys. That relationship is eerily identical. It's beautiful. But to hear you say that I was the idea and she wouldn't pick me up, and to live in that I was monetary. That's the reality for a lot of fucking people. So to go from that to the relationship that you have now, where you are thriving and watering each other, and you are a fucking team. Like that alone is the success story that most people will never have. But how did that come about from what you were at before to where you were at now? Look, are you comfortable talking about your divorce?
Oh, absolutely. So
Right.
there's actually there's a lot of steps between the divorce to current day because I was married and then I went to prison. When I got out of prison, I wasn't quite divorced yet when me and the mother of my son had gotten together. And she was just another cog in the wheel of being the idea. And that was still me just replacing one with the other. You know what I mean? It was the same situation, just with a different face and a different name. The conversion occurred when I realized that nothing had changed. I just replaced one with the other. It was more trauma bonding. It was still me trying to look for parts of myself in another person.
Do you mean like somebody trying to heal you or fix you, or what do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that was there are parts of myself I refused to acknowledge, and I always used other people to fill that hole. I did it with the social circles that I associated with. I did it with the women that I associated with. There's always somebody that would validate me so that I didn't have to do the work on my own self-love, my own self-appreciation. So if they would give me X, Y, and Z, then there was a monetary return. You
Okay.
know, when I went out with my friends, I was buying all the drinks. I
Okay.
was the life of the party because of. When I was with a woman, I would pay for all the bills because I mean she will then appreciate me because I do X, Y, and Z, which is why I said like I lean in to being the idea because I didn't have any personal value myself. I frankly other people gave me a reason. Other people gave me the love that I couldn't feel for myself.
Okay. So then that speaks to allowing the validation of others to fill your cup, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I get that. I understand that.
Yep. And the real problem was I didn't give myself enough time to patch the holes in the bottom of my cup. So I would just pour my cup into everybody else. I would let it all leak out the bottom part. I was empty all the way around, but I would buy people's affection. I would buy people's attention. And I was a tattoo artist, so it's not like I felt broke. You know
Right.
what I mean? It was easy to refill the wallet, but I could never refill my cup.
Right. Well, and there's never a shortage of people that want to take advantage of the money, the tattoos, or that lifestyle. Because
Yeah.
if you go to work and make in a day what most people make in a 2 week paycheck, which is very realistic for most tattoo artists, good tattoo artists that have good customer service, those nights are every single night. And that was where my problem was coming in, because I would make the money, blow the money, have to go to work the next day and do it again. But
Yeah.
as long as I was willing to, on me, let's go, everybody was always around. And the moment that you don't want to do that anymore, then the shit talking starts, and like the isolation from your community, it becomes a thing. So knowing that you stopped doing that, I really want to focus on the relationship aspect. What did your divorce look like? Because we do this, everybody, just so you know, when Mike and I have conversations, it's like 900 conversations in 30 minutes. It's very effective. But I want to stay focused. What did your divorce look like? Were you, a multitude of questions here. Were you done with the marriage before the divorce happened? Did you initiate, or did she? And how did the divorce transpire to completion?
Okay. I'm going to walk you through point A to present day really quick.
Okay.
Okay, so me and my ex-wife were already over before the divorce had ensued. But we were trauma bonded, so we didn't think either one could survive unless the other person was providing in one way or the other. I was a raging alcoholic. She was a type 1 diabetic. I weaponized my alcoholism. She would go DKA and not take care of herself, intentionally to show me that I was her biggest problem.
Okay.
That was just the lineage of our relationship. It was an easy divorce because I already had because I wasn't emotionally invested in what you would hope a marriage would provide. I just got out of prison. I met the mother of my son, and she started giving me that excited. I love the idea of you. She didn't know all the damage, didn't know all the bullshit. I could recreate myself, and all I wound up doing was creating the same fucking mess. So it was just an easy transition. But what really occurred was when I found out that I was having my son, I realized this is this is a different kind of love. This is a different kind of attention. This is I need to know myself again. And that's when I started really rereading a lot of the writings from prison again and a lot of the documentation that I had written and a lot of what I truly wanted because something I haven't tapped into was I'm adopted and was at a very young age. And a lot of that need for validation came from the fact I always felt like an outsider looking in. I never felt like I belonged anywhere. So forever I was trying to impress. I was always trying to please. I was always trying to find the next people who would accept me. And finding out that I was going to have a son made me really take a good hard look at who I was. Would I be able to own up, or would my son just have to carry the damage of his father's bullshit also? Um, and that's where things really started to change when I started to take a look at who I was, why I was allowing certain people in my life, why I was in the relationship that I was. And the reason that I was in that relationship was because I was just using another person to give me more validation. And sadly, that's how we wound up having my son.
So a whole lot of accountability in those statements.
It it still sucks in the fact that I don't like being the person who put others through that, and that's something that I had to come to terms with. And I no longer carry guilt for it, but I still carry accountability and responsibility
Right.
for it. I
Well,
can I can sympathize.
that speaks to acceptance. It happened.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Um, and so it brings me a lot of peace to have come to that conclusion because I carried a lot of damage with me for years, but now this is where the conversion of my faith comes in because I started asking big ticket questions like when our son gets to an age and he wants to know a little bit more about God, would you be willing to take him to church so he can learn for himself, regardless of your religious beliefs? Because at the time I was more of like the Satanist and I did all the demonic tattoos and all that shit. And she laughed in my face and said, no, no. It was like, so, but why though? Because she was also like doing a lot of shopping at Target for future baby clothes and doing all of the indoctrination shit because she's young and she's hip. And it was like, so you can indoctrinate a baby you haven't even met yet, but you're unwilling to allow him to learn his own valuable lessons about morality and the importance of truly living a valuable life. And at the time, I was a Satanist and I still understood those moral values.
Right.
And that made me take a good hard look at a lot of it, man. I started covering up my satanic tattoos, and I started realizing like I need and he needs so much more. And sadly through all of that, Katie and I knew each other, but we just talked art. We actually met in CCV, which was the Rob Bailey like coaching thing,
Mhm.
and all we did was talk art. We talked business, talked how to be able to grow a brand as an artist because she was trying to learn how to, and obviously I had already created it. It was all just friends, fun, business, and realizing the fact that she neither of us really had a plan to ever know each other
Yep.
other than really just talking business. So we created this crazy mutual respect. And inevitably, once the mother of my son we just cut it off emotionally, I took the big plunge, and her and I really started like getting to know each other a bit more on a personal level. And that was the first time in my life I felt like I was seen as a person. Someone knew me. You know, they didn't use me for this, they didn't have expectations of that. There was open lines of communication, and it felt so uncomfortably satisfying because it was something I'd always searched for. And I can tell you with certainty, just like how I told you, it was underwhelming when I realized my acceptances or my accomplishments. This was the most overwhelming sense of joy I'd ever felt to be a person. For the first time, I feel like in my life, where I wasn't just an idea, I wasn't just meeting other people's expectations. I was just me.
There was no masks.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's that's when it all like started just changing, man. Like Katie and I, we were both very demonic, very damaged people, and we had faced a lot of those things prior to the damage that we couldn't face. We came together and started following a path of faith, and we faced the leftover demons together. And yeah,
That's my origin story with Peaches. Same thing. It started over art. She was dating one of my friends. She would bring paints and shit into the comic book store that I owned.
yeah,
And like I would sit at the comic book store more often than not because again, didn't want to be a fucking tattoo artist anymore. So I'd walk in and she'd be painting and the conversation started over her doing floral paintings and me giving ideas on color theory and how to blend and use oils. And it was just bullshit conversation where there was no agenda, there was no expectations of me or of her because it was about the art.
yeah,
So as we started having real conversations, life conversations, she was a nobody to me. And there was no putting a good foot forward because there was no expectation of anything being a thing. I could be completely authentic with her and she could do the same with me. And it created a true environment where somebody could see past all of my bullshit. I wasn't the rock star tattoo artist. I wasn't the cool guy in town with money. I wasn't my best friend's best friend. Like I was just some dude that was talking about color theory. Here, read this book. It
yeah,
would work better if you did this with your arm versus going like this with a paintbrush, right? Like stupid shit. But it
yeah.
created a real foundation. I don't want to get too far ahead. I'm making notes as we talk because I don't want to go back and get too far off. When you kept going back to your journals the notes that you had made while you were in prison, do you still journal?
Yeah, all the time.
Do you have your client's journal? Is that something that you push people? Because dude, I have a journal in every book of my house, every room of my house. No bullshit. Like I got two of them in my whiskey room. I have one in my bedroom on the nightstand. I have one on the end table right next to the couch because you're 15% more likely to remember it if you write it down. But I can be honest to my journal. I can't vague book my honesty. I can't get on Facebook and type out random vague experiences because somebody's going to put two and two together. And if I need to work through something and I need to work through it before I bring it to my wife so that I can talk to my wife versus word vomit emotional nonsense, my journal is my go-to. So knowing that you were able to journal like that and you still journal and you have your client's journal, how pivotal do you think that is? I guess I can't really ask that because this is the way you did your shit. Is it therapeutic for you? I guess is probably the only way. I've answered all my own questions, but why journaling? How about that?
So I I just know I need to get things out. I know if it doesn't come out, then it stays in and it just becomes some jumbled mess. And I'll always have to face it eventually. So what I do is voice memos.
Okay.
Like I'll sit here in the morning. I get a lot of thoughts out. I'll do my typing. I build systems. Like if I have a thought, I'll reverse engineer it down to the root issue, and I can do it in real time now, where I can break down and create solutions instead of hyper focus on the problem or the thought. But voice memos are the best thing in the world. Like when I'm working with an artist and they have a thought, they have a big epiphany, or if they're facing a problem they don't know how to address it, I just have them voice memo it and then title it. So then when they go home, they can sit down, they can have that little bit of a gap. So instead of being emotionally reactive, they can be logically responsive.
Okay.
And so I'm teaching them how to be able to break down from logical response and almost create mathematical equations to showing that it's either not as big of a deal as you wanted to make it initially, or to get all of the feelings out before you just, as you had so eloquently said, just kind of word vomit it all out and then have to backpedal a bunch of shit and say, oh,
Yeah.
that's not what I meant.
Yep. Yeah, Peaches and I do drives. When we drive a lot, and that's where we hash out a lot of our life shit. Not arguments or anything, but like the conversation that we had the other day about what we're doing moving forward had happened in a drive. Her wanting to do the bath line happened in a drive. The podcast happened on a fucking drive to a date that we were going to do at the gardens. So taking photos. So like our drive time is that we are going to problem solve together, and it's no holds barred. So if I am being emotional, I can be emotional in the car with her and she gets it. Like I'm just getting it out. Being able to journal and write things down and put it in an order that, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I think we need to happen. This is the end goal that I'm going for. How do you feel about it? Because now I'm not emotional brain thinking anything. It's all logic. And we both have borderline personality disorder. So that emotional brain thinking comes from trauma. And like, if we lean into that, dude, it's ugly. And we've both been that way. Like she's seen me ugly respond to things. I've seen her ugly respond to things. I've seen her in a moment where she's been splitting. There's a whole lot of that comes into it. And I think the idea of writing things down and putting your thoughts together before having a conversation is a key to success and healthy communication with the people that you love. I know that you and Katie have morning meetings, so to speak, work council meetings or whatever, where you guys do that. What does that look like for the two of you?
Pretty similar. So a lot of the time, like originally, I'll start there. It seemed more like Parliament than it did anything of organization, because it was just my ADHD would come out and I would just start like just spewing out all these ideas that I would have.
Yep.
And that's just too much coming in at her. So now we try to have it a lot more organized, a lot more of a legitimate meeting, because the businesses that I run and what she's starting to create, we do try to systemize so that it can all happen seamlessly and hopefully like parallel to one another, you know? So we do have to figure out, as you like back here, I break down systems on whiteboards. I'll pull out the whiteboard and her and I'll just break it down. That's how it looks now, because Parliament in a relationship doesn't work where you're just shouting responses at each other and steamrolling every idea. We tried. I've crunched the numbers, I put in the time, and the shit doesn't pan out, man.
Yeah.
But we're both very excited people. So when we both have the opportunity to take our turns and to break it all down, it's a beautiful thing, you know? So we try to do it as frequently as possible. Might not be every morning, but we try to get really good ones in multiple times a week. And I don't know, again, like you finally get to see the person. The one thing that we focus on the most is not our personal goals, but how we can parallel our goals so that we're not growing apart unintentionally, but we're staying right there with each other and growing together. And that's one of the big things that I love the most about it.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. You guys, this is real time. What Peaches and I talk about on To Be Better with the prioritizing the relationship over everything. The relationship is its own entity that has to be fed and nourished. And if you don't give it enough sunlight, or you feed it after dark and it gets wet, you have a whole lot of fucking problems. Gremlins throwback to everybody from the 80s. You are going to have issues in that situation. But if you can sit down and have a conversation where you're going to do things that the relationship is going to benefit from, the rest of everything in your life, it trickles down. It's like a champagne tower. You know what I mean? That first glass is the relationship. Everything else that goes down is of importance. Yeah, there you go.
That's exactly our relationship. We broke it down into relationship, his and hers, goals in the middle, what my goals are, the things that align to both of us, her goals would align in the middle, and we made the whole thing just what you defined. Yeah. So now we know exactly what our strong suits are and what we can work on together.
Yeah, that's it. And then the strong suits, you guys take those roles and run with it, and the things that you need to work on with each other is, I mean, that's how you succeed. I love that. That's fucking, I didn't even notice that back there. It's very hard to read all of that shit, and my tism makes me want to focus and try to read it. So I've been trying to avoid that. But the other thing that I wrote down is expectations because of the true, honest conversation. So with you and Katie, when you guys were doing your initial courtship, and I touched on this a little bit with Peaches and I, that honest conversation had no intent behind it. It was literally just me trying to give advice to make somebody's life a little bit better, because I've already struggled that. With you and Katie having the art conversations or the business conversations or whatever those conversations were, because there was nothing behind it other than goodwill, good intent. I don't know how to word that. You were living with intent, but you were just trying to help somebody. Like there was nothing, no underlying motive. How about that? There's no underlying motive there. So
Yeah.
knowing that there's no underlying motive there and you guys were just doing your thing, how do you think that influenced your foundation moving forward? Do you think that allowed you to move without putting a mask on? Because you guys kind of already had those back and forths to show like we're both kind of fucked up and that's okay.
Yeah, well, I think it was because there was really no ulterior motive to anything. We could be honest and open. She could send me what art project she was working on and ask for advice. I could send her what my um like what was it considered, the my vision board,
Right.
and kind of see if she could get the clarity from it. You know, we were just little things where we were just working simultaneously, but distantly, like distanced in a lot of ways. We never thought we'd cross paths, never thought we'd meet each other in person whatsoever. Just two people in a business community doing business shit, trying to be better.
Right.
You know? You like that little pun I snuck in
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, I saw. It took everything in that not to be like to be better podcast and do a little promo there, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and so it was cool. But the way that I saw it convert was almost like colonial love. Two people who were just like connecting from a distance, in a sense, modern day writing letters back and forth, getting to know one another, what it was we were into, what our lives had been leading up to this point, what brought us into CCV, the businesses we had dreamed of, what the big vivid vision was, and realizing, holy fuck, it's kind of the same stuff.
How slow was that process?
Um, it was almost, looking back, it feels like it went by in the blink of an eye, but it also felt like it was a snail's crawl because it was so enjoyable to just communicate with another person who didn't know me for the idea or the mask or the title.
Right.
And so I cherish a lot of it, you know. So I can play it back on slow mo and enjoy it all, but it almost seems like it was the snap of a fingers at the same time.
Right. The reason I asked that about how slow it was is because everybody swipes now. Dating culture is nothing more than an app on a phone.
Yep.
And then it's normally sex on the first date because that's very common across the
Yeah.
board with dating apps. So to know that you and Katie had that time frame the way that Peaches and I did, because Peaches and we knew each other for almost probably 3 years, 4 years before we even had like an official date. So like it was a very slow process, but it also I didn't want anything to do with her because she was dating my friends. So like, and like I was always that guy. Like I don't care if you dated in middle school, like you were off limits to me forever. And that is such a flawed mindset to have because somebody else fucked that relationship up. And just because it didn't work out for them doesn't mean that I shouldn't chase my happiness. And
Yeah.
understanding the happiness and the wisdom that I have now. And like, I could have completely passed this up over stupid bro code that doesn't really
Yeah.
matter. You know what I mean? Cause it's not like they were super serious anyways, but anyways, do you,
My big thing with all of that, and I realize this obviously in hindsight, is taking the opportunity to do that, to get to know somebody on a personal level and not just go straight to the expectation of slamming ass,
Yeah.
we'll call it. I don't know, is that censoring?
yeah, you're
Whatever.
good.
It builds so much respect.
Yeah.
And you can always, like, love is wavering. But if your foundation starts with respect, the love can come and go in kind of a this, but the respect is always going to make that shit stand strong as fuck.
Yeah, I agree with that. Your foundation is everything. And you did it. You took the time building the foundation. And that's one of the things that we preach about so much. You mentioned a vision board. I actually had one of the guys who are part of my men's group on a video call yesterday pulled off the second thing on his vision board. He's crossing off a goal and now he's got a blank spot. Do you still do vision boards?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. How important do you think that is to success and why?
I think it's extremely important in the sense that you need to be able to visualize what you want before you just start shooting in the dark at it. It's the difference between buckshot and sniping.
Okay. That's a good way to word that. I agree.
You know, and you can hope for the best. You can say the universe will provide whatever the fuck your narrative is, But doesn't it make a lot more sense to tell the universe what it is you want to help have a navigational system? And that's why I think they're important. And I don't do them as frequently as I used to, but I realize that just like in the previous conversation, I'll take a look at my vision board that I did 6 months ago. And I've accomplished a lot of it just because internally I had hardwired myself to shoot for a goal or an experience. And then I revisit. I continuously edit and audit that vision board, and I realize once I have it clearly and I can, whatever your path is, manifestation, visualization, prayer, whatever you do, being able to visualize doesn't convolute your need to pray on something and go on God's path. It just creates a lot more clarity of the action steps to get there without the distractions, the temptations, and the bullshit.
Right. It's the constant reminder of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, my vision boards, I full disclosure, this is probably the first time in, well, since I can remember that I don't have some sort of vision board. I will always do digital, right? I'll put them together on a grid and just save it on a file on my desktop.
Yep.
But I also have cork boards or magnet boards, or I'll put it on the refrigerator so that I can actually see it. It depends on how motivated I am to accomplish something. If I'm working towards a business, I will hyperfixate, and that's all I fucking care about until the business is up and I can step back and it do its thing. The vision board aspect for me is about detail. If I want to buy a barn dominium, I'm going to find a barn dominium that is almost identical to what I want, or I'm going to go on a website and try to design it in CAD and make it my way, Photoshop it, whatever. And then that's what I'm working for, because I'm working for specifics. I want that roundabout driveway. I want the 4-car garage with the detached in-law suite in a shed, right? Like those kind of things really matter to me when I'm trying to focus on the goals that I want, because I'm focusing on every aspect of the goal, not just getting a new house.
Yeah.
So it allows me to make the small victories as well, and it allows me to focus on what those small victories will look like, and gives me reward systems. It's like a dog getting a treat. Learning to sit is getting a raise, or opening a new S corp, or saving my first $50,000. Doing, once I have those small victories, I get my treat. I get the yes and the pat on the ass and the snack, and then I get to go do the next thing. But all of those lessons that I'm learning while being trained in that way, it compounds. So now I've got this cemented. I know how to do this. So if I've got to do it 6 more times, I've got the formula. And now, like, it is no different than training a dog when you really think of it that way.
Yeah, well, I think we are simple creatures regardless. We like to believe we're super complex, but we're not.
No.
That's all we're working towards. And I completely agree, because I've been a creature of habit to where I didn't have the vision board, I didn't visualize, I didn't know what the driveway would look like, what the rafters would be, if there'd be carpeted, hardwood. And it's really easy, if you don't know exactly what you're shooting for, to settle for something that's comparable-ish,
Yep.
that you remember,
Right.
so you'll just settle. But if you already have it in your head, you've already experienced it, you already know what it's going to provide, you already know what seasons will be your favorite and how you're going to enjoy the property, you will not settle for less than that experience.
Right. You spoke on prayer a minute ago and putting things out into the universe. With the change of life for you, I know that you said that you had a very Satanistic past and you have your faith now. What does prayer look like for Mike? Like, are you one of those guys that begs God for everything, or are you? What does it look like? I'm not going to put thoughts in your head. I want to, because I actually want to talk about this.
Yeah, it's actually funny that you asked that, because about 6 to 9 months ago, I texted you and I was like, man, I respect you. How do I fucking pray?
Prayer is hard.
Yeah, like, and I really didn't know, because I've never been one to ask for anything. I didn't know if it was supposed to be that uh God please provide. So for me, it's gratitude.
Same.
Across the board, man. It is gratitude. It is for those who truly need, that I know. And it's not like, let Ronnie borrow $20.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. You know what I mean? It's like big ticket stuff. I know people who are going through stuff, and it's a shame that somebody I considered a friend had just taken their own life a few weeks ago, and there were a lot of things that I wish he would have been able to see that would have given him just enough hope to not take that road. Um, And now I pray that his daughter's given all the opportunities in the world to escape what it was that was holding him back. You know, that that doesn't become a generational curse, or that that doesn't create too much damage for her growth and her acceptance of what life can truly become. But it's gratitude, man. The
Yeah.
life, and you had said this earlier. I'm so grateful. I should not fucking be here. I tell people every day I believe in magic because a guy like me should not be in a life like this if it wasn't for me learning the skills that would produce magic. Magic is not given to you. You're either a spectator of it or you're a producer of it. There's no gray.
Yeah. That prayer thing for me is the exact same thing. I other than like real shit, I had a 3 hour night where I was in so much pain that I thought about eating a bullet like 3 weeks ago. And like I was punching myself because you ever have a bad cramp in your calf? I
Mhm.
was having my hamstrings, my quads, and my hip flexors. And it lasted for 3 hours because of my nerve damage right now. And that's the first time in probably, I don't know, 4 years that I asked God for anything. And it was just give me a reprieve because I was in so much pain. My prayers are gratitude first and foremost, always, always gratitude. And then it's for other people and what they're going through because I view this is going to get a little religious, guys. I view my conversations with God the way that I should be speaking to a father who truly loved me and wants the best for me. Because
Mhm.
as a father, when my kids ask me for shit, I'm not just going to give it to them. I want you to figure that shit out. I want you to overcome your obstacles. I want you to get stronger. I want you to emotionally mature. I want you to thrive in this fucking gift of life because it is. You know, we have 1 in 400 trillion of a possibility for us to exist.
Mhm.
And so you and I, we are fucking, even though life is common, 8 billion people, we're fucking rare, right? And I want my kids to get the best of that experience. So if they're coming to me going, Pops, I can't, Pops, I can't, I don't wanna, I don't wanna, I can't, and they're fucking complaining about everything and they want me to solve all their problems, I'm not doing that. I want you to be strong. I want you to figure things out on your own and I want you to have a very fruitful life. And if I'm the one that's tending to your garden, you will become weak. You will never have the mental fortitude to overcome hardships, to have success in any way, shape, or form. So, in that, if I'm talking to God and I want things in my life, I'm not praying for Him to give me the things that I want. I'm praying for Him to give me guidance to get there. Show me the first step, right? Like if you want me to do this, put me in a position to talk to somebody that's going to give me that first step into where I'm going. Put somebody in my way to have a conversation with me that's going to trigger a thought so that I can figure this shit out. I don't ever pray asking for anything other than gratitude and guidance. Guidance sometimes comes in the form of, and be careful what you pray for, guys. Don't ever say, give me patience. For fuck's sake, don't ever ask God to give you patience because He's going to put things in your way to make you a patient person. I made that mistake. And it did benefit me long term, but in the moment, it was so fucking frustrating. So, knowing that you and I are both people who are go getters and doing it on our own, do you think that that prayer mentality is a byproduct of the life that we live, knowing that we're capable of doing it on our own? Or do you think that it's because we've been there, we know that we'll be okay no matter what. So there's no point in asking God for anything. Why do you think that is? Because there are two types of people. There are the people who woe is me, pray for me all the fucking time. And then there's the people who pray for others and have gratitude. Why do you think that is?
Well, I sincerely believe there are people who pray for things because they think it's owed to them, and people who pray for thanks because they don't believe they're worthy of, but they're appreciative of.
Okay.
Does that make
It,
sense?
it
Like,
does,
so
that leads a whole other thought process. But let's go down that let's go down that rabbit hole. Why though? Because you and I shouldn't be here. So the life that we have, we are grateful for. So do you think that that's more the case than the previous statement of us being go getters and not wanting to ask anybody for anything?
no, I think I think there's a drive in men like us who have been there, seen that, and worked through it that will always be grateful for being given another day, which drives us to be go-getters because comfort and complacency is no longer an option. It's not even within our wheelhouse. You know, so we'll always be grateful for what we were able to experience today, but we know tomorrow is going to be another battle that we can be victorious over, God willing. And I cherish that. It comes back to the every day I wake up battle ready, period. And on the days that I don't, those are the days where I work twice as hard because if I don't meet my own expectations, then maybe I didn't wake up with the right vision. Every action that I take in a given day now is not, how do I want to say that? Every action that I take now is because I'm trying to impress the future me I know I'm capable of becoming instead of saying I'm just going to battle with me from yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, that's all good and well, but it's an unfair fight because you yesterday could have sucked.
Right.
But the me in a year from now has really high expectations of the things I have to do every day to provide, to protect, to be able to give gratitude, to be able to like create impact. I can't slack on that. And I'm
Yeah.
grateful that I have the opportunity to work with such passion, with such fury, and to have the love that I have in my life that I can come home to and find that peace, only to go back out and do it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, that's the living with intent. Everything that I do now is intent. Don't get me wrong, there are moments where I have indecision, right? Like she'll come to me with a problem and I'll be like 10 minutes. You'll get my undivided attention in 10 minutes. Right now I can't give that to you, right? But like we do live with intent, and if I can't give her that 100% right now, she knows that like those conversations need to be had at a later date. Living with intent to me is setting goals and then not doing anything to self-sabotage those goals. You said that I'm going to the battle with the version of me that I was yesterday. That I know that that's a very cliche thing to say on social media because that's the meme. And it's everywhere. You see it all over the fucking place. It's all of the inspirational fucking mental masturbation people that fucking post inspirational quotes who have no fucking savings, no real ambition in life, no career, failed marriage, 6 fucking kids, and they're just trying to make themselves feel better. That is mental masturbation to me. All of those toxic people posting those good quotes, you are never going to get anywhere because this is what you think your life is going to amount to. And posting those quotes is just to make you feel good in the moment. It's a dopamine hit. It's bullshit. Now, I do believe that we can absolutely be 1% better every day or 10% better, and we should be looking out for future us because nobody's going to do that for us. And the reason that I'm leading into all of that is I do live with intent. Everything that I'm doing is to make sure that my wife and kids have everything that they need and to make sure that I get to the retirement that I believe I deserve, right? Because I was already there. I was ready to fucking sell it all and go live in a van. And I didn't. Now we have podcasts and other businesses and it's fucking super exciting and I would not change any of it. But I'm doing the things that I'm doing with the intent that I have because I want my wife to have the life that she deserves. I want the kids to have the life that they're going to earn, but I want to be able to set them up for success. Do you think that the Mike that exists in this current time frame is working the way that you're working so that future Katie is able to have the life that she wants, and how much of that factors into your day-to-day decisions?
Oh, predominantly, because now I don't make decisions that don't impact the tribe. Like everything that I do, it has her within its sights. I don't make me decisions what's best for me. Her and I just had this conversation this morning, and it got a little excited because once upon a time I would have let it cripple me to think people are relying on me. Fuck that, idiots.
Right.
But now I'm so grateful that people in my life can count on me, that I have follow through. And I don't know, like the future me and Katie from 1 year from now is not only going to be because of the amount of intensity I can match every day with, but sh all the work that she does at home and with the people that she impacts. And it's my obligation to make sure that, fuck, I stole this term from you. She's frolicking in the fields every goddamn day. It's my obligation.
That feels like a victory though, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Like that's when I ask people what success looks like. Success can be money to a lot of people. That most people, that's what it comes down to. That's not to me. Money's easy. Right? That's an arrogant fucking thing to say for people that don't have any money, but I've been fucking homeless and I've started over numerous times. I can always make money. I have the intelligence and the know how to do it. I can't always make my wife have the life that she wants to live, right? Hopefully I can. That's the
Yeah.
goal. But sometimes life is going to fucking throw some shit at you and you're going to have to navigate that. But knowing that she's able to fucking go and metal detect on the beach while I'm sitting there with a guard dog and the kids are having fun and our friend Carrie is out there doing shark tooths and I get to look at my life and that 1 hour of time where I've got nothing going on and everyone in my immediate tribe, as you put it, is smiling.
Yeah.
That's success to me.
One thing for me, especially when you work with tattoo artists predominantly, the like when you ask what's success mean to you, look, I just want to learn how to make money and get more clients. Like that's a byproduct of just not sucking at everything else you do.
Right.
Like that's not a goal. What we focus on, and people hate this because in a lot of ways you have to sell what people want and then provide them with what they truly need.
Right.
That's the reality of it. So
That's
we focus
success in
on,
business. That
yeah,
that that right there is exactly what makes everyone successful in business. If you want to be successful, provide something that the people need. Solve a problem. If you solve a problem, you'll make all the money you ever fucking want.
yep.
So,
So the big question, to come back to what you said, like everybody thinks that more money means more success. But then when you spend all of your money at the office or in the studio or wherever, and then you go home and your wife's pissed off slamming cabinet doors, looks at you, calls you fat and storms upstairs, are you successful?
right.
Fuck no. We work on your mind, your body, your knowledge, your creativity, and your business. And creativity isn't the picture you doodle,
Right.
but how far can you think outside the box with belief? You know, going back to my religious belief, one thing that dawned on me, my big epiphany was I'm a fucking artist. How can I imagine something in my head without any tangible belief? No one can see it, no one can experience it. It's just mine. I imagine it and then I make it a tangible product. Yet when I think about God, it's like someone needs to give me proof. I don't believe it. Like, are you
Right.
out of your, like, it doesn't make sense. The minute I took down those boundaries and I really just started thinking, like, I'm not in control of that. I can just believe in it. If I believe in it, I don't need to see it when I feel it every fucking day. I know it's there. I experience it in everything I do, every decision I make, every action that I take, every time I make Katie happy because it's what I knew I truly wanted. I don't need to believe in it. I don't need to, or I don't need to tangibly see it. I just know that it's right there.
You just have to have
Just like
a
every
little bit
piece
of
of
faith.
art I wanted to create. It's right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a little bit of faith. We're over an hour, and I've been trying to keep these. I could do this all day with you, bro. I genuinely enjoy you as a human being, so I literally could sit here for 4 hours and have these conversations. But I do want to try to taper this down. I am curious about what your downtime looks like. Peaches and I had a conversation 2 days ago where we had 3 days, consecutive days where we had nothing to do. We played video games. She got extremely baked. She did gardening shit. Like we were walking the dog. We were just doing normal downtime weekend shit, which is super fucking rare to us. We get our vacation times where we go out and do
Yeah.
stuff, but even that is structured. So for somebody who has the life that you're living, the woman that you have, the family life that you've got, the ambition that you have, what does your downtime look like? And do you experience anxiety when you have it?
Oh, that's a setup. We do have it. So we've actually structured our schedule to into like a red, yellow, green system.
Okay.
Yes, I create
No,
systems.
you got to go into that now because that's going to help somebody. What does that look like?
Okay, so my red, yellow, green system is red is high energy, yellow is high performance, and green is high purpose.
Okay.
So every day my high energy is that's my fitness, that's my prayer, my meditation, and my journaling. That charges my battery. I can
Okay.
take that battery into my high performance. That's my workflow, that's the money making activities, the things that truly like help build the systems, help build the businesses, and help create the guidance. You
Okay.
know, whether it's the clients, the art, the actual business actions, the system building, etc. And if I do my red and my yellow to the standards that I held, then I have my green. That's my high purpose. That's my time with Katie. That's my time with Mav. That's our time to just relax. I'll tell you right now, my most of our green time is ice cream and Ancient Aliens, dude. I'm practically an ancient astronaut theorist just based on
Shut the
television
fuck up,
consumption.
dude. Peaches and I watch so much fucking History Channel. That's so stupid. So would you say that the red is the non-negotiables? Like you have to do the reds no matter what in order to be
Yeah.
able to reap the rewards and the small victories of the greens?
Yep.
Okay.
So those are my non-negotiables. And I don't want to say they're negotiable, but they're interchangeable because eventually a non-negotiable becomes a habit. When it becomes a habit, it doesn't take as much thought. And that's when you start just checking the box, not actually taking the action.
That's the
So
difference between living with intent and simply living.
yeah.
Okay.
And so about every quarter, I'll shake it up a little bit and change it to make myself uncomfortable. But green time, because I'm a fan of ice cream, man. I can put down a pint, no questions asked.
I'm a foodie too. Yeah, I've put on a lot of weight. They put me on prednisone because of my spine. I've gained like 13 or 14 pounds in the course of 2 weeks. The steroids fucking, my back is a mess. And that's the only thing that's making the pain go away. But I'm hungry and I'm eating everything in sight and it's bad. So I am a foodie and I will eat for taste. So like we can order something and like I'm just eating my food. I'm tasting her food and like what's over here. And right after I eat, I'm like, oh God, I feel like fat bastard. I'm going to explode. And I'm like, there's cookies in the cabinet, cookie flavor. Right. So yeah, I fucking get that. And that is my biggest issue, which is why Peaches and I have been both over 300 pounds. And we have accountability in that with each other because as soon as we start to see it, we'll call each other on it. And it's a beautiful thing. But so I understand the ice cream thing. I am a foodie like you wouldn't believe.
Yep. And Katie and I are the same way. Both of us have been very overweight in our past. And so periodically, I won't do it to her. I don't have it in me, but she will do it to me. And I'll just say, okay, then we both need to do some work.
Yeah.
And it's not that she needs to do a goddamn thing. I just know that her and I doing those things together, that's part of my green. My red can be some of the most peaceful things in the world. Of me, like me and Katie going to the gym together, no matter how high energy it is, I fall in love with her every goddamn time I see her PR. I don't know what it is, but it does it for me,
Yeah. I get
But
that.
with that being said, Sundays are usually also green time. I have to earn it at the end of my week, and that is my most anxious day.
Why?
Because I don't know how to relax. And eventually she can bring me my peace, but initially I'm so prone to figuring out life's riddles. I'm so used to being on the move that sitting down to watch a movie and just kind of breathing, it's really difficult for me. And I think it comes back to I have a bad relationship with celebration or reward because I was very prone to that looking like destruction. And so I think there's still a hard wiring in me that when I sit down and it starts to feel like comfort, then I partner it with complacency. And what happens with complacency in my mind used to always be destruction, but she has a really good way of reminding me of the peace.
Okay.
It takes a little work,
It makes
but
sense. So the anxiety of having downtime obviously wasn't always a thing for you. What triggered that realization? Because obviously my situation doesn't equate to yours, but when you had that, this is complacency. This is me not doing the things that I need to do to where I'm going, and it's creating this anxiety. How did you come into that realization? And how long did that take for you? Because there's a lot of people, Peaches I included, who have a really fucking hard time with downtime, and we haven't figured out why yet. Like that's because our reasons are going to be different. So how did you come to that conclusion, and what did that look like for you?
for me, downtime was when I stressed and struggled and overthought so much. Like when I was white knuckling all of my problems, that would always be a quick like, I'll celebrate with a drink, I'll cure boredom with a drink. I'm this, I'll drink. But a lot of that was just because of a lack of purpose and passion. So I feel like every action that I take generally has to come with some sort of purpose, passion, or working towards solving an issue.
Intent.
But yeah, but what I'm coming to find is I'm still solving an issue when we sit down and relax. I'm still coming to real world conclusions that I've been afraid to face all the time, and that's just knowing how to be happy.
That's a hell
Her
of a
and I had a
statement.
conversation yesterday where it's like it's not like I was a little fired up. I'll go ahead and just admit that right now when this conversation was happening. But I said, it's not my job to be happy. It's my job for you to be happy. That's how I gauge the fact that I'm on the right path. I'm okay to stress and struggle to know that I can come home and see the smile on your face. That's my peace.
Well, there's a clip. That is what it is to be a man. Mike, that's manhood. That is what every man on the planet should be striving for in his relationship with his woman to a fucking T. So thank you for that. But continue. Sorry, I'm clipping that. That's gonna go on the To Be Better podcast.
That's fine, man. You can have it. So I think what also brings her joy is watching me breathe, watching me be present, watching me play with Mav, watching me be able to just hold her hand and go for a walk. I see the two of you going for walks every morning. We are going to start penciling that in. It's something we used to do that we desperately miss. Because that is us time, you know. It's not always about how hard I can work to go out to battle and come back bloody and bruised metaphorically to have her nurse the wounds and bring me my peace. Part of my job is also to provide her with my peace.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so that's kind of the new frontier that I'm in. You and I had this conversation a week ago, like getting to the point where it's less about the battle and more about the experience of life.
That's where I'm at.
And that's what our green time is the true experience, being present in each other's life, whether it's with spoons in our hand and a pint of some sort of healthy ice cream or like, hell man, this is our season, going to the pumpkin patch or an apple orchard, doing that stuff. We can share each other's peace. That is such a new frontier for me.
You said that with the clip that we were going, and I'll have to cut this on to that because I don't want people to think that I believe in happy wife, happy life, because I don't. I think that's toxic nonsense and it's complete bullshit. With what you said, I believe that I'm able to gauge my success as a husband, a father, and a man based off of the fruitfulness of my wife's happiness and her peace. If she's smiling and everything is good with her, I'm doing my job, right? I'm successful as a man in that aspect. That doesn't mean that my happiness and my peace doesn't exist. It just means that, like you said, when Katie PRs, you fall in love all over again. Tell me that you're not happy when you're falling in love. That new feeling of, oh my God, this is my fucking woman. Like that is what my happiness and my peace looks like. So when she's like, puts the metal detector on the sand for the first time and instantly pings a rusty ass nail, and I'm fucking, oh shit, you bad bitch. Like I'm in love all over again in that moment. And that is what my happiness looks like. But I would not be able to experience that happiness and that peace if I wasn't all of the things that you listed in order to get it. And on the experiencing life thing that we did talk about it probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, I am at that season in my life where I want my money to work for me so that I don't have to work for me. And I want to create a whole lot of new businesses and new jobs for other people to thrive because I have it now, right? Like that's how you become the Donald Trumps or the fucking Elon Musks. You invest and reinvest and reinvest and reinvest, and you are going to take some fucking losses. If you get to the point where you have an extra $100,000 or even $50,000, you could buy a food truck and literally just pay somebody to go fucking operate a food truck. And it may not make you a lot of money, but if it makes you $1,000 a week for the next year, it's 50 grand. Like you really, people don't think about that kind of shit. They think, oh, I got this new money, I'm gonna go buy a new system or I'm gonna get some new J's. And like, they're not reinvesting to live the life so that their money can work for them. And it doesn't necessarily mean stock markets, but I am at a point where I just want to experience shit. Peaches and I are looking at Class C vans. And like I already have the To Be Better van. It's a toy hauler. I can put my dirt bikes and shit in there. But if we buy an actual Class C motor vehicle and the van and we tandem drive wherever we're going to go, or we bring people with us to drive the van, we can bring all of our toys. And if we could do that 3 or 4 times a year, that's life experience that we get to reminisce about when we're fucking old in rocking chairs on a piece of property somewhere in Tennessee. That's where I'm at in life. And dude, I really hope that you're getting to that point where you're shifting from the hustle, got to get up and get it, to like start cementing that foundation into making those things a reality for you, because I would love it if you and Katie actually came along and did all this shit with us, because we genuinely enjoy you guys. So
I tell you all the time, man, it's in the cards. I'm just playing the right hands. I have to circle back to the happy wife, happy life thing because I hate niche buzz terms.
Yeah.
And I think the general misconception there is Happy wife, happy life generally instills living a life of quiet desperation for the joy of someone else. You don't have to sacrifice and suffer for someone else's happiness. The happy wife is a byproduct of your achievements and your ambition, not your struggling and your suffer. You don't have to be obedient to produce someone else's happiness. I had done that. I've been there. I know the difference between the two. Where I would bury every feeling, bury every emotion, allow their happiness to flourish while I just quietly died inside.
Yep.
Fuck that.
I call that being a shell of a man.
Yeah. It's happy wife, happy life. We need to add a shit ton of paragraphs to a statement like that because there's a lot that has to occur to know that when I get to come home, I get to breathe and relish in her happiness. It's not that she's happy, so I'll suffer. She's happy because I'm doing this for us.
Right.
Like I don't know. I could talk about this particular topic because I've been in relationships where we were both fabricated happy. I've been in relationships where I would sacrifice myself and I would jump in front of every bullet, not even realizing they were the ones shooting the fucking gun.
Absolutely.
Like it's insane the things we'll do because of weird little terms that we're taught growing up. And those things have to be rewritten. We have to hardwire ourselves
Yep.
because I mean, as the man in any relationship, as the provider, as the protector, as the presider, the happy wife is not the goal, it's the byproduct.
Absolutely. And when you look at it that way, it changes the entire conversation. The
Yeah.
problem is that's not the conversation that's had when that statement is made. That statement is made because women are supposed to be the priority in the relationship and they dictate everything.
Yeah.
If my wife is fulfilled because I have a good woman, my life is good. Right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not a shell of a man. If something's going on in my life that I'm not okay with, I bring it to the table. We have a discussion. We figure it the fuck out and we move on. There's no animosity. There's no hatred. There's no, well, what about me? It's the relationship first, then the two of us, and then the kids. And that's how we structure our family life. And it works. Kids are good. Fucking house is good. Like relationship's amazing. Marriage is obviously not in question because the relationship is amazing. Like
Yeah.
that matters. And as long as she's happy and things are going well, and I don't feel like I'm putting myself out because I don't. All of the work that I do, I'm not putting myself out. I'm doing what I was required of a husband biblically to make sure that she has everything that she needs. And that would lead into a whole other conversation about the religious aspect and all of that. And I definitely don't want to get into that because we're now an hour and a half in. But that quiet desperation statement, I heard that living a life of quiet desperation. I don't know if I heard it from you. It may have been when we interviewed you guys the first time. Where did that come from? Where did that statement come from? Is that a quote from somebody?
Yeah, I have no idea. I didn't come up with it, but it has stuck with me forever
Okay.
because I can relate to it. It is a huge element in my opposition of just who I was. I think it's a commonality of current day man of living a life of quiet desperation. We do the thing, we do what's expected, we obey, we provide, but internally we're just slowly dying because none of it is fulfilling us. There is a life out there for each and every man that can be rewarding, fulfilling, and success driven, but it comes with a willingness to actually go out and get it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. How much
some
are you
people
willing to suffer and
say,
sacrifice?
yeah, some people say I'm too old. Some people say it's not for me. Some people say I can't. But there's a lot of these terms that people say that define who it is they are psychologically that aren't accurate. I mean, from the smallest, I'm just not a morning person. Why? Because you stay up too late? Because you told yourself that?
Yeah.
Try mornings for 2 weeks and tell me your belief hasn't changed on what you can and can't be.
Yeah, absolutely. Cut caffeine after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Turn your TV and all your devices off by 9. Be in bed no later than 9:30, and tell me that you're not a morning person at fucking 5 o'clock when you can't sleep anymore. Yeah,
Have a plan.
I agree.
My biggest thing, one of the biggest elements I added was my morning routine starts the night before.
What does that look like?
I put my gym clothes out and my clothes for the day, depending upon how much momentum there's going to be. So alarm set. I have my gym clothes set out already because for some reason, even men will look for the right gym sleeveless for
Yep.
30 minutes for no fucking reason.
Yep.
So it's all ready for me, ready to rock and roll. I have my schedule already dialed in. Usually I'm going to get my schedule for the next day written out the night before. So there's no thought that needs to be taken. And I'm not one of those guys that's like, you need to first you go to the gym, then you run for 30 minutes, then you sauna, then you ice bath, then you sauna, then you go tan your balls, then you drink a smoothie. Like you don't need all that shit. What you
Right.
need is things that are going to build your energy, that are going to charge your battery, things that are going to challenge you, but reward you. Because if you're that fulfilled in pushing yourself a little bit first thing in the day, then imagine the kind of energy you can apply to what the rest of that day can look like.
Right.
You you're already psychologically changing your belief systems of what it is you're capable of accomplishing, and no one is stopping you.
Right.
And I mean, going back to how this conversation started, I love chaos, but there's a huge difference between chaos that is by design and chaos that is a free for all. And it used to be a free for all. It was anything goes, but when I figured out my core values, when I figured out my non-negotiables, when I figured out that I had a purpose on this earth other than just the idea that I became unstoppable because I can still live in madness.
Yeah.
And I still love the chaos. It's really no different. I'm the same psychopath I was when I was drunk.
But you're focused now.
I'm just focused. You know what I mean?
So the that I don't know if you're aware of or how much you know about Steve Jobs, but you know that if you ever watch anything with Steve Jobs, he's in the same black turtleneck, same blue jeans, same white shoes every single time. That was his entire wardrobe. He didn't have variants of clothing because he is somebody that operated at such a high level that every decision that he had to make outside of things that like really needed his attention created something called decision fatigue. I'm sure you're familiar with this. There are aspects of my life that I have zero control over. Peaches handles all of it. I don't want to think about food. I don't want to think about when we're eating. I don't want to think about when we're going to bed. Like you handle everything that is not going to disrupt our life and let me handle the important shit. And she gets to make her way downtown, living the fucking life that she's living, frolicking, while I'm worrying about the important shit. And when all of the important shit is taken care of, then I get to relax a little bit. So that decision fatigue and picking your clothes out the night before and having your schedule planned out, that is a recipe for actual success because you're waking up with a fresh mind and you don't have to think about anything until it's time to go to work. So you can go to the gym, do your workout, stay in your routine, journal, have your protein shake or whatever it is that you do. And by 9:30 in the morning, when you're getting ready to sit down with your first client, you've done all of your shit. You have a fresh brain that you can problem solve with people that's not tainted by all of your early morning bullshit. And if you're somebody like us who gets up at between 4 and 6 a.m., you're going to have those fucking days if you've spent 5 hours dealing with a whole bunch of emails and Facebook and TikTok. And you know what I mean? Like you're coming in at that point at 80%, 60% versus at 100. I think it's super dope that you plan everything out the night before like that. We kind of do the same thing, not to the extent of laying clothes out, but that's because I get to wear basketball shorts every day and just grab a t-shirt. So, and it's all my shirt. So it's not, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Like one big thing, especially because sure, being a tattoo artist is an amazing, one of the coolest careers you can find yourself in as long as you maintain professionalism and there's a scalable model to it, especially in the purge that's occurring presently and what it is. However, my biggest dream was not being a tattoo artist. When it was, I was inevitably coasting and failing because I didn't have my sights set on anything. My favorite thing to do now is when I want to start a new business, I pencil in about 3 hours to figure out what I need to do to make it successful and to make it sustainable and to make it scalable. I'll set a timer and I will see how much work I can get done diligently and focused towards creating something that is completely achievable. And if I get 3 hours of uninterrupted work, that's more work than I would ever have gotten done without parameters.
Right.
You know what I mean? So anybody who wants to live a better life, anybody who wants to start their own business, challenge yourself with time blocks, whether it's red, yellow, green, or just 3 hours of uninterrupted time. start with your visualization, start with your clarity, start with your planning, and then time block in how much diligent work you can put into that thing. And you have no fucking idea what kind of like small empire you can create in a calendar year just with that focus.
Yep. We Q3 for the men's group was time management. We did everybody read Buy Back Your Time, and we started implementing a lot of the shit from that book. And that's how we got to the point of being able to have the days off that we have, because we restructured our entire life. I didn't realize how much of my life was wasted until I started writing down everything I'm doing every 15 minutes. And like, you know, because of her broken elbow and because of my back, and you know, we have a lot of downtime for video games. And like when I was making my list every 15 minutes, it was like Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty, I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, this is not healthy. This is why I'm putting on the belly fat. Like, we can't be doing this. But then we started Twitch streaming it and making money off of it. So it became an excusable thing. So
Yeah.
so like always, I would like to have you leave the Voice of the Broken with a thought for men who are struggling and trying to find their way. If you could tell somebody that you know is in the darkest of dark, what would be the one piece of advice that you could give them to potentially shine a little bit of light so they have something to work towards?
If you ever look at life as it can get worse, you're right. If you ever choose to look at life as it will get better, you're right. But it's all a mindset shift. It's the conversations you have with yourself. If you want it to get worse, it will. But if you choose to make it better, it can.
Yep. That's the phrase. If you believe, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, let's wrap this up. We'll do a little outro thing, and then I will sit on here for a minute so that we can have a conversation about the group and all of that. You good with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. With that being said, guys, we've come to the end of the episode. This is something that I would like to do more of. If you are somebody that has a story that you would like to tell, please send us an email at tobebetterco@gmail.com. Put Voice of the Broken on there and give me your story. Let us know that you're interested in a Zoom call, and we will vet you and go from there. Mike, I really appreciate your time today. I'm really glad that you came on to the show. I fucking love you as a human being, man, and it's so cool to see you and your wife thriving. And I'm really grateful that I actually answered that email when you wanted to come onto the To Be Better podcast, because this fruited into a very blossoming friendship, and I couldn't be more grateful to have you in my life. So thank you for that.
It has been, dude. I'm just gonna keep hitting you with more, because Katie and I talk about our timeline as like with friends with you. We never thought we'd have friends like this,
Right.
you know, people that you can actually connect with. And the one thing I realized is social circles are not always meant to be the people within your area, but people that you can relate with no matter where they are.
Yeah.
And I've never experienced closer friendships than with people like you and Peach. Neither is Katie.
Yeah.
You know, people you actually align with.
And the really cool thing about that is because we live very similar lives, the busyness aspect of it doesn't become a thing. Hey, you got 5 minutes? Yep. Nope. Cool. You know, it's not like, well, fuck you then, right? Like whenever you got a time, I need 15 minutes of your day. Like when we make the time, it is very cool. And you're right. It's nice to know the internet's a crazy thing, bro. We are living in a time that is unlike any other time in history. And there's more opportunity and more connections. And though that can be a detriment, it does breed friendships out of fucking random ass emails. So
Yeah.
shoot your shot, guys. With that being said, we'll see you guys on the next one.